till the moment it happened, and it was a landmark decision. One day they were sceptical and quietly opposing. The next day they were supporting wholeheartedly.
It's very important that the UK, as a major arms manufacturer, should take a major role in this activity.
We knew other countries simply could not then ignore the call for an arms trade treaty, and it came as no surprise that within a matter of months the whole of the European Union rallied behind the call.
In 2005, when all the governments from Mercosur made a very positive statement in support of the treaty, and that was very important because it was the first time that other countries from different regions that were Europe started to make a very positive statements or approach to the treaty.
En 2006, deux événements politiques majeurs ont permis aux militants de mettre en valeur la nécessité d'un contrôle international des armes. Le premier était lors de la conférence de révision organisée par l'ONU en juin. Julius Harriley a remis la pétition intitulée « 1 million de visages » à Kofi Annan, qui était secrétaire général des Nations Unies à l'époque.
I am here today because of problems in my country, Kenya.
Julius comes from a village called Kanyarkwat, which is in West Pokot. He used to lead a team of 20 warriors who would go cattle rustling from village to village. That was his work. That's how he ensured that his family had food. One of the things that Julius did is that he walked to the police station and he handed over his AK-47. Then we decided this was a man we wanted to use in the campaign.
Julius, I am honored to receive this petition in recognition of the people in more than 160 countries who have supported it and given it 1 million faces.
We geared up almost 2 years' work of campaigning energy to that moment. We had a sort of 100 days countdown with a series of examples, reports, media, press conferences, stunts all around the world. What eventually happened was that there were sort of 5 or 6 governments that didn't agree, 5 or 6 governments that thought things like an arms trade treaty were not feasible, they just didn't want it.
On paper, the review conference in July 2006 was a failure. There was no outcome document. A few countries were able to block any outcome because it was based on a consensus decision-making system. However, from our perspective as campaigners, there was still some success. We'd wanted to raise the profile of the need for greater arms control, we'd wanted to get the media interested, we'd wanted to get politicians more involved and generally more talking about it. We managed this, and now the challenge was to take that momentum and put it towards the next big event in October 2006.
It was a very concrete opportunity. You know, in campaigning we do a lot of strategizing, brainstorming, sitting in a room, but that was really the first opportunity we have, where there was something on a table and we campaigned and we had the opportunity to move that forward and make that resolution be approved or supported by as many governments as possible.
En septembre 2006, une équipe de lobbyistes, militants et professionnels médiatiques internationaux s'est rendue à New York à l'occasion du second grand moment politique. Une résolution pour commencer les travaux portant sur un traité relatif au commerce des armes avait été déposée à l'Assemblée générale de l'ONU. Après avoir longuement débattu et exercé des pressions intenses, le principal objectif des militants consistait à obtenir le concours d'un nombre de pays aussi élevé que possible pour remporter un vote majoritaire.
We wanted to make sure that we got round to every single government delegation, and that's not as easy as it sounds because there's lots of committees that are going on all the time. Some of the smaller countries have only got one representative who is stretched between attending lots of different meetings, and we wanted to make sure that we met with every government and that every government had the opportunity to hear what we were saying about the Arms Trade Treaty. So we came up with the idea of a race.
We're going to be visiting all 192 missions, and we're going to be doing it in 192 minutes.
I think in our group we had about 16 missions to visit.
Got a picture with the ambassador!
And then we text to the people inside the UN and say, we visit Afghanistan.
I'd get that text and then I'd give a compliment slip to another colleague waiting inside the UN, and they would go inside the UN meeting hall
and tell them, we have already visited your mission and we have asked them to vote in favor. And it was really, you know, everybody was interested in that.
They kept that big tally sheet outside the the first committee room with ticking off the numbers as people came on board the resolution.
It's been an amazing day, actually, just having people's reactions to the fact that we were running, reading our signs. Some woman asked me on 2nd Avenue, what are you running for? And we all went, an arms trade treaty like that, so it's really exciting.
I think the marathon was one of the moments when really gave us the feeling that lots of people that were going to vote for it. The main issue was not if it would pass or not, but how many countries was voted against it. And we were really worried that all the major like China, Russia, Egypt, India would have voted against it.
We were poised there ready to note it all down, and when the resolution was read out, there was suddenly just a flood of green lights went up. There was only one red light that appeared at the bottom from the US, so it was passed with an overwhelming majority.
La campagne avait dépassé l'attente de nombreuses personnes. C'était le moment de faire la fête et de communiquer cette réussite à tous les partisans à travers le monde. Mais beaucoup reste à faire.
I think the next step is going to be much harder, which is to get a treaty that has enough teeth to be realistic and be effective, and enough nations signing onto it. I think that's the really hard part.
The next phase after the vote went through was that the UN Secretary General held a formal consultation during 2007 on what should be in the Arms Trade Treaty, basically, with all member states. We wanted to make sure that all those states that had voted yes, 153, got the opportunity to input to this consultation, and that their consultation also reflected the demands from ordinary people around the world. So we launched a people's consultation in parallel to this formal UN consultation.
Oi, eu sou a Liliane, eu vim participar das consultas populares.
A ONU acabou de aprovar uma resolução para criar tratado internacional de comércio de armas. A gente quer influenciar o que o governo brasileiro vai pedir para incluir no tratado. Então a gente teve a ideia de fazer consultas populares com vários grupos diferentes, representativos da sociedade civil, para mostrar o que o país realmente quer desse tratado.
The creativity, the energy, the momentum that has been generated by the involvement of grassroots activists around the world is what's made politicians listen, and it's what made governments act. We need to keep that pressure up. This campaign is ultimately about people. It's about ordinary people's lives being torn apart by armed violence, and it's about ordinary people responding to that and saying to their governments, enough is enough, you've got to act. Governments have listened, they are starting to take action, but we need to keep that pressure up until we get a tough, effective treaty in place and until we make a real difference to ordinary people's lives on the ground.
In order to minimize and prevent horrific crimes like what I experienced from happening again.
Gun violence is real, it's all over the world, and for me to travel thousands of miles from my home country to come and speak at the UN clearly shows the extent of the effects of gun violence.
La campagne Contrôler les armes continue en utilisant des tactiques et stratégies différentes. Son objectif précis reste inchangé, obtenir un traité efficace sur le commerce des armes.
The ATT represents something new. It is a different approach to international politics. It's an approach which is pragmatic but not unprincipled. It's an approach which reaches out to new groups and creates new alliances. I hope there'll be more of them. This is the way to do international politics in the 21st century.
I think it takes motivation. You need to believe in the cause. You need to believe it's possible and achievable, but also that it's fundamentally important. You need an awful lot of hard work, and you need to be tenacious. You must never, ever, ever give up. Even at the darkest moments when you think that no one is going to support you, you need to keep going.
Just